Hi everyone, Mikey79 here and welcome to this new video of Magic Duels. As you guys all probably know, Eldritch Moon released last week and yeah, the new expansion is pretty awesome, it's pretty fun to play with. I haven't been able to upload a video yet because I've been busy during the weekend, but now we've come to that point and I will be doing a card set review video. That will be this video, and that's something new for me that I wanted to do just for the fun of it. I don't see myself as an expert on saying which card is great and which card is bad. So I'm going to try this. I don't know how it's going to work out because it's the first time that I do this. So I'm relying on your guys' feedback. Let me know if you like it or not, this video. I will also be talking about the cards from my point of view. So my gameplay style is important. Some cards I just like because they fall into my style of game, and yeah, others won't. So I'm going to be as neutral as possible, but it won't be easy all the time. So let's try this. Now, before we go to that, what I want to do is talk a bit about the two new cards that we got instead of Angel of the Tides and Silver Ranger. Those two cards went out and we got two new cards in return. Now, one of them is good and the other one isn't, at least from my point of view. Let's see, I guess they're with the Origins here, green. Let's see, yeah, this is the first one, Enoch Guide. So for 2 mana, one generic and one green, we get a 1/1, and when he enters the battlefield we get to put a +1/+1 counter on him, or search our library for a basic land card, reveal it, and then shuffle our library and put that card on top of it. So basically this one comes instead of the Silver Ranger. We still get to search for our basic land, so that's not a problem, but the problem is we don't get that land into our hand, but we have to put it on top of our library, which is much worse than what we had. Now, the reason why they got rid of the Silver Ranger is because they thought that 5 color decks or 4 color decks with all those planeswalkers around was a bit too easy, becoming too easy to play it. And yeah, should have they done it or not? I don't know. I think it's a bit exaggerating to get our mana fix gone in green, especially with a lot of cards that want you to play multiple colors. So yeah, I don't think that's a pretty good choice. Now, another good replacement is Ruin Their Wake or Pilgrim's Eye. But Pilgrim's Eye is actually basically it's doing what Silver Ranger does, but it's 3 mana, and yeah, so it's a bit of a search if you want to replace Silver Ranger in a good way, and also what you prefer in card, of course. So let's take a look at the other one that we've got, and that's Angelic Destiny. Now, this is actually a great card, and in my opinion one of the better auras out there, not only in Magic as a whole, but especially in Duels. So for 4 and 2 white we get to enchant a creature, and that one gets +4/+4 flying, first strike, and it's an angel. Now, okay, it's a nice buff, and basically what it does is yeah, it makes your creature kind of a Baneslayer angel, but without a lifelink. And when your creature dies, you can return this one to your hand. Yeah, the aura comes back to your hand. So the weak spot of auras is always then that when your creature gets removed when it dies, that you also lose the aura. So usually it's 2 for 1, and that's something why I don't like to play auras. Now, this one obviously bypasses that problem. Of course, if they exile your creature, you don't get this one back either. It's only when it dies, but it's pretty damn good. You get normally 80 to 90% of the situation, you get this card right back to your hand. So anyway, that's the 2 new cards, and now let's talk a bit about the Eldritch Moon. set. Okay, so this is a bunch of cards, so I'm gonna dive right into it. And like I said before, I'm new at this, so bear with me. I'll do my upper best. Okay, so the first card is Blessed Alliance for 2 mana, and it's an instant speed card, and it has Escalate too. So each time you pay the Escalate cost, this card has multiple choices. When you pay the Escalate cost, every time you pay it, you get to choose one more option. So this one's got 3 options. Choose one or more. Target player gains 4 life. Untap up to 2 target creatures, and target opponent sacrifice an attacking creature. Now this one is immediately, I like this card a lot, and I will tell you why. First of all, the last ability, target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. Yeah, basically this card will replace Celestial Flare. Celestial Flare lets you do that too, but for 2 white mana instead of 1 generic and a white. So that's already a better cost. It's easier to cast. And this one can do a lot more, so it can gain you 4 life. In life gain decks it's absolutely amazing, where it matters when you gain life, not only for the life gain but to trigger other effects. Getting the 4 life, I guess it's always good. And to untap up to 2 target creatures, yeah, it could be a nice combat trick when you're tapped out with your creatures, of course, and opponent attacks and you want to block with them anyway, you can still use this card. So yeah, it's a great card, and I think it will see a lot of play. And yeah, like I said, it will probably replace Celestial Flare. The only difference between them is that this one is an uncommon and Celestial Flare is a common. So yeah, if you really want 4 copies of that effect, you should play 3 of these and maybe 1 Celestial Flare, but I'm pretty sure this one will replace that one. Then the next card, Borrowed Grace. Now I have played some of the cards already during the weekend, and some cards not, so I haven't been able to play the game that much, but some cards I know better than other ones. This one I don't know yet that good, but I also think it's not that great of a card. Borrowed Grace, you pay 3 mana. And then it's got Escalate, so you can use that cost, and then you go up to 5 and get both abilities. And then creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, or they get +0/+2. So the best thing you get out of this is +2/+2, and you pay 5 mana for it. Now 5 mana is quite a lot. Now is this a great ability? I'm a bit in doubt with this card. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's great either. Kitty Tactics, for example, okay, it isn't instant speed, but it does +2/+1 also to all your creatures, and you pay 3 for that. So yeah, it's how important you think the instant effect is, and how much you're willing to pay for it. Of course, this is something that goes into token decks or where you play a lot of creatures. And it can deal the finishing blow without a doubt, but yeah, it's a bit more expensive. Then Bruna the Fading Light. Now this is one of 2 that will transform actually into this one, but I will talk about that later. First I will talk about this card, Bruna the Fading Light, and Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. I will talk about that one later. Now, when you cast Bruna the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, and she's got flying and vigilance. Now, that's already some amazing abilities. Getting something back from your graveyard to the battlefield is already pretty awesome. In this case, it's an angel or a human, so you have to work around that a bit. You have to build your deck around that a bit. But I see a lot of possibilities with it. Emeria Shepherd does a bit the same thing, so if you combine this one with Emeria Shepherd, I think you can get some crazy combos going on. Now we get a 5/7, which is a pretty nice body, but don't forget we also pay 7 mana, and it's quite expensive, but I do think you get something in return. You get a pretty decent body with flying and vigilance on the board, and with a great ability. So I think she's worth it. I haven't tried her out yet, but I think it's a great card. Then collective effort for 3 mana, 1 generic and 2 white. We get another escalate ability. Now this one's sorcery speed, so no instant shenanigans going on here. And choose 1 or more. Either way, we destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. We destroy target enchantment, or we put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. Now, or we can do all of that in the same time. Also a great card, I think. The destroy target creature with power 4 or greater is an ability in another card that we saw a lot. I think we all know that card. Destroy target enchantment is pretty awesome too. You still see quite a lot of them. Now I got a feeling that the meta is going a bit more aggro for the moment, so enchantments aren't always that much around, but here it's an option, so you don't have to do it. And the +1/+1 counter on each creature, yeah, that's pretty great too. And look how it says target player controls. Now a lot of these cards say target player, which is also pretty fun in Two-Headed Giant, so you don't have to do it necessarily on your creatures. Now in white we usually have some creatures on board, especially with all those humans around, so yeah, I think this is a great addition to that deck. Then the Courageous Outrider for 4 mana. Let's see, I don't know all the cards yet either, so I'm just doing this pretty spontaneously actually. When Courageous Outrider enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. It's already good. You may reveal a human card from among them and put it into your hand. Wow. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Yeah, well, humans don't have power enough already. This one adds a little bit more. It is 4 mana. It's a bit more mid-range late game, where humans of course are a bit faster. So yeah, this one is actually pretty good to for later in the game, but I think it's maybe a bit too slow. I don't know. I think I will have to test this to find it out actually. But yeah, revealing the top 4 cards and go digging when your hand is getting empty, you can search for a human and you can keep the pressure going on. Definitely possibilities, and I think it will see play. I'm pretty sure of it. Seems like a great card anyway. Then Desperate Sentry for 3 mana, 1 white. We get a 1/2, which isn't that impressing, but we need dice. We get to put the 3/2 colorless Eldrazi onto the battlefield, and he's got Delirium, so when he gets +3/+0, when we got Delirium going on, he gets that. Yeah, I don't think it's bad. It's pretty decent actually. Don't know if it can find a spot in a human deck. I don't think so, but card that dies and it replaces itself, in this case with something better than he already was, probably. This isn't bad actually, and of course in Delirium decks this will be a great addition. Now I don't know if Delirium in with white is something that is a thing, but hey, who knows? When it does, this card will probably be part of it. Then the Extricator of Sin. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Now this is a lot of text. Let's see. When he enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another permanent. If you do, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. And Delirium, if there are 4 or more cards, transform them if you get Delirium going on, and then we get this. Eldrazi you control have Vigilance, and if we pay to sacrifice a non-Eldrazi creature, we get to put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi onto the battlefield. Okay, so this one's got a lot of abilities for 3 mana, so that's usually a good thing. And yeah, I see possibilities with this. When you're playing for 3, you get basically 5 toughness on the battlefield. This is a great defender for a 0/3. It can hold back a bit of those aggros. Yeah, you get a 3/2 also, so it's pretty decent actually to start with. And then when you get the Delirium, yeah, you get some nice abilities. You have to work, you have to build your deck around it with the Eldrazi and everything, but yeah, it doesn't seem that bad. And yeah, the Eldrazi you control have vigilance. Yeah, I don't know if that's an ability where you want to build a deck around, you know, but anyway, when you sacrifice a non-Eldrazi, you get another Eldrazi in response. So yeah, it's seems pretty decent, and another Delirium card in white, so it's probably becoming a thing. Then the Fate Bearer Paladin for 5 mana. We get 1 white, we pay 1 white and 4 generic, and we get a lifelinker, and yeah, that's it. For the rest it's pretty vanilla. Now, if you pay 5 mana for a 3/4 lifelink, I guess it's okay, but this isn't too exciting, and I think this is actually a card you have to still bear in mind that Magic goes way beyond Magic Duels, of course. We have limited, we have draft, we have all those kind of things in paper Magic, and I think this is a card that is especially interesting for draft or something like that, and where you have to build a deck with the cards that you get. Now I think in Magic Duels there are better cards to play than this one. Lifelink is an ability that can be interesting in a draft to hold out a bit longer, but here it usually won't be that relevant, I guess. So I don't think this is a card that you see a lot passing by. Then Fate Unbroken for 4 mana. We get to enchant a creature you control, and when he enters the battlefield, exile target creature opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Then the enchanted creature gets +2/+2. Oh, this is a difficult one. Yeah, I see potential in it. Obviously it's a great ability, but like I said before, it's an aura, so you enchant your creature, get +2/+2, and you get to remove another creature. That's all great abilities, absolutely, but yeah, if your opponent removes your creature, all of a sudden you'll probably be in a bad spot, because you lose a fat creature and your opponent gets his creature back, which is probably one you really wanted to get rid of. So I don't know, I don't like this kind of cards. Like I said, it's got too many disadvantages just because it's an aura. I know this is a playstyle thing. Yeah, if you like auras and you want to build an aura deck, maybe I can see some possibilities with it when you can recur it also from your graveyard or something with the Myria Shepherd, for example. Yeah, maybe it has potential, but that's something you just have to try out. Sometimes it will go good, but I guess sometimes it will go very bad as well. Then a card where things will be going good with is Gisela, the Broken Blade. For only 4 mana, 2 white, we get a flying first strike, lifelinking 4/3. And at the beginning of our end step, if we both own this one and Gisela, we get to melt them together into Brizella, and that's the other card here, where I will talk about in just a second. But let's just take a good look at this one first. Now, creature wise, I think this is one of the best cards in the set. It's actually like a mini Baneslayer Angel from the past. Yeah, it's just great. The only downside maybe is that it's only 3 toughness. It's a bit more vulnerable to burn. But other than that, the abilities are great. She will do a lot of work for you, and too bad it's a mythic. You can only play 1 of her, but really strong, good, effective card. Can win you a lot of games. Then when we combine her with Bruna, which we talked about a few minutes back, when we get both of them on the battlefield at the end step, and yeah, she can, when Gisela is in your graveyard, Bruna can get her back, so that's pretty awesome. And then they melt into this one, into Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. Now, if you get this one going on, you will probably win the game. flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink, it's all the on Shilana. Your opponent can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. So a lot of removal spells can be played, like murder for example, is out of the question. Yeah, chances are pretty good that you will win this game when you get this one on the board. Great card. I haven't tried it out yet, neither of them, but it looks fun. Then Guardian of Pilgrims for 2 mana, we get a Spirit Cleric. Spirits are also a thing in this set, together with Shadows over Innistrad. You can build a decent spirit deck now. And when Guardian of Pilgrims enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Now it's a 2/2, so it buffs up another one. So if you want to go a bit more aggro or tempo with the spirits, I guess this is a nice addition to it. I haven't built any spirit deck. I haven't looked at it actually yet. Spirit is... I've been working on my zombie deck actually, so I haven't had time yet to check out the spirits, but it seems a decent card. Ironclad Slayer, for 3 mana we get a 3/2, and when he enters the battlefield you may return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. Now if for some reason your Angelic Destiny, the new aura card, winds up in your graveyard anyway, this one can get it back, so that's already a pretty good thing. There are of course other auras that are worth it to get back, like a Suppression Bond or something, and yeah, and equipment. So if you got a deck going on with some auras and equipments that are important to you, I can see this one be played. It's 3 mana for 3/2. That already is pretty decent body for the mana cost that you pay, and it's got a nice ability, so yeah, I think this is a nice card. Then the Lone Rider, let's see, for 2 mana, I know this card, for 2 mana we get a first strike lifelinker, but it is only a 1/1, so yeah, the abilities are good, but the body isn't that great. But at the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform Lone Rider. Now, when we transform him, this is actually pretty... Yeah, this is pretty nuts. This thing has first strike, trample, lifelink, and it's a 4/4. I mean, what the hell? And the good thing is when you play Blessed Alliance, you gain 4 life. Yeah, if you play the Lone Rider, you will probably be playing Blessed Alliance as well. This is a great card that goes great synergy between those two cards. So basically you can play this one on turn 2 if you have a Blessed Alliance in your hand. On turn 3 you get a 4/4 first strike trample lifelinker, and I think we can't argue about that. That's pretty awesome. So you have to work a bit to get him to transform, but when you can, and you have a pretty awesome creature on board. Then the Long Road Home, let's see. 2 mana, 1 white, exile target creature. At the beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, so this is for Azorius Blink something kind of decks. Yeah, it's... yeah, I see potential in it. It's another Blink card. I guess we'll be getting a lot of those, so you can blink a lot by now, I guess. But it seems a decent card. I'm not going to talk about it too much. It's pretty obvious. Lunarch Mantle, 2 mana, 1 white, enchant creature, another aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has 1 sacrifice a permanent. This creature gains flying until end of turn. Yeah, well, it's still the same problem. It's an aura that isn't that exciting, and you lose 2 cards when the creature gets removed. So yeah, maybe in a Boros style deck that's wanna go really fast. I think the +2/+2 is why you would play this, but I think there are better cards than this one to play. is such kind of decks, but the +2/+2 is actually where you want to play this for, because a sacrifice a permanent for one, yeah, the ability that you get flying, okay, it's an evasion, maybe you can hit your opponent for a few points, but it's not too exciting. And yeah, you'll be sacking permanents and then you lose this creature, and then the aura, it's a lot of card loss if it goes wrong. Not my kind of card. Selfless Spirit, 2 mana, 1 white, we get a Spirit Cleric, so another spirit going on here. Flying, 2/1 body, and when we sacrifice it, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Now this is a pretty strong ability, because basically it avoids your creatures from getting board wiped, unless it's a language, of course, but all the other board wipes will be irrelevant if your opponent plays them, and you can just sack this one in response and your creatures gain indestructible. Yeah, pretty strong, I guess, because when you go white, that's actually where you're afraid of. You're afraid of getting the board wiped, so this one, yeah, bypasses that. Pretty awesome. It will definitely see play for only 2 mana. Awesome card. Sigardian Priest, 2 mana, 1 white, and we get to tap a target non-human creature if we pay 1. Yeah, I think it's yeah, it's another human. Will it pop up in a human deck? I don't think so. I think there are a lot of better humans around than this one. But yeah, the ability is not that bad. Tap target non-human creature. I'm afraid you will be seeing and playing a lot against human decks, so nah, I won't include this pretty fast in any deck of mine. Spectral Reserves. Put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield and you gain 2 life for 4 mana. Yeah, we get 2 1/1s, which is 2/2 power toughness on the board, and the gain 2 life isn't usually it isn't relevant unless you got other abilities with life gain going on. Yeah, it's a card, another card. Anyway, I think it's expensive for what it does. But if you can build a deck where you need some life gain and with spirits and everything, then yeah, maybe it finds a spot, but I don't think you will be playing all 4 copies of it. It isn't too exciting. Then Steadfast Gatar, or Gator, I don't know how to pronounce it. For 2 mana, 1 white, we get a human soldier. Wow, there are a lot of human soldiers. And when he attacks, he gets +0/+2. Now, yeah, I will have to take a real look at my humans deck. I haven't done that before. But this seems like a pretty decent fast creature. At turn 2 you get this one, and he becomes a 2/3 when he attacks, which avoids getting killed early game, I guess. Now with all those 3/2 Eldrazi tokens and everything going on, he dies anyway, but yeah, that's something that the meta will have to find out if it's worth it or not, or if there is a better card than this one at your for your 2 mana drop. But yeah, it seems pretty decent. Then what the hell is that? Subjugator Angel for 6 mana, sweet lord. 2 white, we get a 4/3, and when he enters the battlefield, tap all creatures your opponent controls. Okay, so this is a finisher, obviously. It's an expensive finisher. We have to pay 6 mana for a 4/3 flying, which is at the expensive side. Now it is an angel. Maybe we will be seeing some angel decks going on. It's absolutely a team that I wanna try out. With Bruna and Gisela and everything. Now Bruna can get this one back from the graveyard, so if you can discard this to your graveyard and you can get it back with Bruna into play, and I see possibilities, but playing this for 6 mana seems, yeah. Once again, if you got your enough damage on the board, you just tap everything out from your opponent and you swing for the win. So It's a finisher and it can get the job done pretty good, I guess, but you're gonna have to pay for it, that's for sure. Then, yeah, Talia, Heretic, Qatar. 3 mana, 1 white, we get a legendary creature, human soldier, first strike 3/2, and creatures and non-basic lands your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped. So, okay, together with Gisela, I think this is maybe even better than Gisela. This is definitely one of the better cards in the set, probably the best one. You get so much for your mana. A first strike 3/2 human. Yeah, the human deck is getting a boost here. The 3/2 is already a great body for its cost. It's get first strike, which yeah, it's pretty amazing ability, and it slows your opponent down like hell. He can't put out a blocker for the next turn. Many lands of him come tapped into play. Yeah, really nut card. It's pretty nuts. Pretty decent, good card, and every human deck will be playing this, so you will be seeing a lot of her. So that's it for the white cards in this set. So let's move on to the blue. I'm gonna keep up the pace a bit because I'm not going pretty fast already. So okay, guys. So first blue card, Advanced Stitchwing. For 5 mana, 2 blue, we get a 3/4, which isn't, yeah, it's not bad, but it isn't too, it isn't great either. We get a zombie, which is going to be a thing. Zombies are going to be a thing, believe me. He's got flying, which many zombies don't have, so that's pretty great. And for 3 mana, we get to discard 2 cards and return Advanced Stitchwing from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, so it is an expensive card to play with, but zombies, you get to ditch some things into your graveyard if you build it like that. And then when you discard 2 cards and yeah, you got madness going on and everything, then you can do some crazy combos probably. I'm building a zombie deck, I'm figuring it out, but this one is not included because I am not going the madness way. I just want to keep my graveyard filled a bit and get advantage in that way, but I ditched the madness team a bit out of my zombie deck. But yeah, I think this one definitely has potential. Yeah, a bit expensive, but yeah, I think it can be a fun card to play with, to experiment with a bit. Then Convolute, pretty difficult words for me, guys. Anyway, we pay 3 mana, 1 blue for an instant counter spell, and yeah, it counters unless your opponent pays 4. We already got that covered actually with yeah, I lost the name because yeah, I don't play much counter spells anyway, but yeah, don't think it's a bad card. Maybe it will see play, but we have the other card there that exiles if you're I lost the name for now. You see a lot of it anyway. You probably know what I'm talking about, but it does basically the same, but you get to exile it when you counter it, so it's a bit better. So I don't think this one will be chosen over that one. Then displays another blink card, I guess. We pay 3 mana, 1 blue, instant speed of course, because it's a blink effect. It's most of the time it's instant speed. Exile up to 2 target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Okay, pretty decent blink card for 3 mana. You can do some crazy shenanigans with enter the battlefield effects, of course. That's the way you want to go with blink. And yeah, I guess this is a great addition to those kind of decks. Yeah, can go pretty nuts, I guess. Then Docent of Perfection. I love the artwork, by the way. For 5 mana, 2 blue, we get an Insect Horror, and he's got flying. It's a 5/4, which is pretty decent for the mana cost. Pretty great actually. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Then if you control 3 or more wizards, transform him. And then we get Final Iteration, and we get an Eldrazi insect with flying 6/5. And wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying. Wow. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Wow, that's a lot of things going on for one card. So let's talk a bit first about this side of the card. Yeah, I think for the mana cost you get a pretty decent flying body around. Anyway, you have to build around it. You have to play some instants and sorceries, of course, to get the full advantage of this card. And then every time you get a human wizard, do you have to play wizards for this card? That's the question. Now, of course, if you play other wizards, there are some. I don't usually pay much attention to the wizard creatures, but I think there are a few around actually. So when you play those, obviously he will transform a bit faster, but I guess you can get him to transform without playing other wizards. So I think the card stands great on its own without you have to play wizard. So if he flips transforms, then you get a pretty nut creature, pretty nuts. Yeah, your wizards get a buff, so it's actually kind of a lord, and he still keeps playing, making those wizards. So yeah, I think it's a decent card, and yeah, I'm looking forward to do something with this one. Then Drag Under. For 3 mana we get to return target creature to its owner's hand and draw a card. Now, not a bad ability. It is sorcery speed, so I'll prefer to have my bounce spells at instant speed, so that's a major drawback for me, at least it is. The good side of this story is that it's got draw card, so basically it replaces itself. It's always good. But that being said, I think there are better bounce cards around actually. I don't know if I would be playing this one. I have to check out my decks. Maybe in an yeah, maybe is it prowess deck? Maybe yeah, because you can use the draw a card ability there a bit more. But then again, for my is it deck, it's already 3 mana. Is a bit much. I don't know. I have to test it. Then Enlightened Maniac. For 4 mana 1 blue we get a 0/2. And when he enters the battlefield you get 3/2 colorless Eldrazi Horde token on the battlefield. Now it's a bit like that white that can transform there, but this one obviously is not that good. Is this a good card? It's difficult. I don't think this is something that I will be playing a lot. Yeah, of course you get basically you get 3/4 for 4. Nah, I don't think I will be playing this one. I think it's a bit too expensive for what it does. You get a nice blocker, but the 0/2 at 4 mana already, I think it's not relevant anymore. Then the Exultant Cultists. For 3 mana blue we get a 2/2, which is okay I guess, but he doesn't have flying. That should be... It's a wizard by the way, so that's already... I'm minding attention to the wizards now for this card right here. So yeah, in those kind of decks where you want to build a deck around this guy, then it's probably going to be a good card. Because when he dies you get to draw a card, so basically it also replaces itself. And yeah, that might be worth the extra mana. Basically I always think for 2 mana you get a 2/2, for 3 mana you get a 3/3, 4 mana 4/4, and so on and so on. Here it's a bit less, you pay 3 for a 2/2, but because it replaces itself I still think it is a playable card. You have to check out your mana curve if it's doable for the deck that you are building. Then Fogwalker. For 2 mana we get a 1/3, that's a nice body. You can block some stuff with that early in the game. And it has Skulk. Now it's an ability that we've seen in Shadows over Innistrad. It means that the creature can't be blocked by creatures with a greater power. And when this one enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent control doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So basically it's a Frostlink's effect, which I like a lot, by the way. There are also some cards that get rid of tapped cards and everything, so I think by now you have many creatures that when they enter the battlefield they get to tap an opponent. I think there are some crazy combos with that maybe. You can easily get, when you build a deck like that, you can easily keep a creature tapped. He's got Skunk, so he's a pretty good attacker, but yeah, he only does 1 damage, but I guess that's okay because it's early in the game. You play him at the second turn. Or you can go defense because of its toughness 3. It can hold back a bit of more those aggressive decks. So yeah, I like this one. Oh, it's also a spirit in addition, so maybe, yeah, a spirit deck. I like it. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable mana cost for what you get in return. I like it. Grizzled Angler. For 3 mana we get a 2/3. We put the top 2 cards of our library into your graveyard when we tap him, and then if there is a colorless creature card in your graveyard, transform him. Okay, what do we get if we transform him? Grizzly Anglerfish, and then we get a 4/5 and creatures your opponent control attack this turn if able, if we pay 6 mana. Okay, so you can get your opponent to attack with his creatures so he doesn't have any blocker. Of course you have to make sure that you do more damage than your opponent does, but that's situational. But for its cost, yeah, I think it's pretty good in self-milled decks, or yeah, obviously you want to go Eldrazi with this. Yeah, it's also, yeah, once again, it's for specific decks, but in those kind of decks, yeah, why not? Then Imprisoned in the Moon. Now this is a very interesting card because basically it's a kind of a removal in blue, which we don't get that often, and especially not in this form. So it's an aura, an enchantment. You guys know by now that I don't like auras, but for this one I will make an exception. Enchant creature, land or planeswalker, so you can enchant a lot. And basically what it does is that permanent that you enchant becomes a colorless land, which can, yeah, add a waste to your mana pool, a colorless mana, and loses all other card types and abilities. So for mono blue decks, or decks that play blue and have some problems with planeswalkers, for example, this is a great addition. Really nice card. I like this one a lot. For 3 mana, that's a very nice mana cost, and yeah, arguably it's, in my mind, it's even better than a suppression bond. Okay, you give your opponent a land, an extra land basically, but you can get rid of a pretty big threat that way. Yeah, I like it. Then the Ingenious Scab. For 3 mana we get a zombie horror, a 2/3 with prowess going on, and when we play a single blue we can give him +1/-1 until end of turn. Now I haven't put this one into my zombie deck, but I guess I might as well could do that because I think this is a pretty decent card, a little bit more aggressive. My zombie deck goes more to the control-y side of it, but if you're building a zombie aggro deck, if that's a thing, I don't know actually, then I guess then it's another 3-drop. Zombies have a lot of 3 mana cost creatures, so you have to look if it's worth it, but I think the card on its own isn't that bad. Then the Laboratory Brood. For 4 mana we get a 3/3, another zombie, and when he enters the battlefield put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. Yeah, it speaks for itself that when you want to abuse your graveyard and you want to get it filled as fast as possible. I think this is can be a pretty fun card. You pay 4 for a 3/3. That isn't too exciting. Still, I think there are better cards than this one. Yeah, it's not good, it's not bad, but I think there are better cards. Then the Lunar Force, we get what do we have to pay? We have to pay 3 mana, 1 blue, and when an opponent casts a spell, sacrifice Lunar Force and counter that spell. Now this is an interesting card. Yeah, basically, yeah, you counter the first spell that your opponent plays. Yeah, that can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. The good thing is, yeah, you just put it there, you don't have to look at it anymore, and you don't have to break your head about what you're going to counter, because your opponent is going to decide that for you. So you pay 3, and yeah, if your opponent plays, can go a few ways. If his hand is almost empty, he's kind of in a problem, because if he's got a bomb in his hand or something that will get him out of trouble, he can't play it because it will be countered, so he has to wait until he's getting something cheap to play that first. That gets countered, and then he can play whatever solution or whatever you want to do. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think maybe in enchantment decks this can be interesting. I can see a Azorius that's blue-white build something with enchantments going on. And recur this, yeah, I think there are possibilities with it, absolutely. But to get the maximum value out of this card, yeah, you have to build around it, I guess, like with many other cards in this set. But yeah, I think it's an interesting card with an ability that we haven't seen in Duels yet, and I think it's fun to experiment with. And yeah, I will definitely try that one out. Nebelgast Herald, 3 mana, 1 blue, we get a 2/1 Flash Spirit, pretty interesting for Spirit decks. Flying, whenever he enters the battlefield or another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. Yeah, I've played with this card in the story mode, and it's a pretty damn good card in my opinion. It has flash, which is already great. You can play this at the end step of your opponent's turn and then tap out the creature so he can't block on your turn, for example. Yeah, the fact that when he's on the battlefield, he keeps doing that actually whenever you play a spirit. So I think this is a card that you just have to play when you play spirits, and yeah, that's it actually. Yeah, I think it's a great card. Then the Nibblers of Frost, another spirit, and for 4 mana 2 blue we get a 3/3 flying, which is okay. He's got prowess going on, and whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, is probably what we want to do when we get prowess. We tap target creature an opponent controls, and that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Yeah, once again, this seems like a pretty good card in spirit decks, but I guess you don't have to play this one in spirit decks. You can play this one in other kind of decks too, so that's pretty fun. For a prowess deck, easy deck for my deck, I think, yeah, my deck curves out at 4, so yeah, this is at the end of my mana curve, so I have to take a look if it's worth replacing with something else. But I think it has potential, because you get to tap out the creature. Yeah, other creatures can come through. Yeah, pretty interesting. I'll have to take a look at it, but it's definitely a good card in my opinion. Then Scour the Laboratory for 6 mana. Oh, that's a lot already. When I see 6 mana, it has to be a game-winning card. 2 blue we pay. Delirium, instant speed. Scour the Laboratory costs 2 less to cast if there are 4 or more card types among cards. Okay, so, and then we get to draw 3 cards. So okay, if you pay 6 for drawing 3 cards, that's expensive. It is an instant speed card, so yeah, if you get the mana at the end of your opponent's turn and you're not gonna do anything with it, or in a counter deck and you haven't, it wasn't necessary to counter, then yeah, you can play this one and I guess you can get 3 cards. But honestly, I prefer to play something like Inspiration, actually. Just pay 4 and get 2 cards. But yeah, it's at the end of your curve, and yeah, of course, if you get the Delirium going on, then it's a better card than Inspiration. And I guess by that time you should have Delirium going on. If you put this in a Delirium deck, you want it as fast as possible, of course. Yeah, for 4 mana it's okay, for 6 mana it's not. That's my opinion. So if you can get the Delirium pretty fast, this might be worth taking a look at. Spontaneous Mutation, 1 blue mana, that's cheap, I like it already. Then we get an aura, which I don't like, and then it's Flash. Okay, we get to enchant a creature. It gets -X -0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Okay, it's actually not a bad card, I guess, for blue. It shuts down a creature. Obviously it's something that gets better when you get your graveyard filled, so maybe in a zombie deck or a Delirium deck. It's an aura, so yeah, why not? I think it's in a Delirium deck, for example, and self-mill. Yeah, why not? I think it's okay. Usually when you play a Delirium deck, I guess it will be with black or something, and then there are much better solutions to get rid of a creature. But I guess it's okay if you wanna, yeah, I think it's good in a Delirium because it's an enchantment aura deck, and if you can get that in your graveyard, it's pretty good. And let's face it, it is cheap, so for 1 mana, what do you expect? It can shut down pretty big creatures for 1 mana. Then take inventory. Now I remember a lot of discussion on the forum of No Goblins Allowed about this card. Now first of all, immediately I will say I do not like this card. I will tell you why. Okay, you pay 2 mana and 1 blue for a sorcery speed card advantage card. Now you get to draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of cards named take inventory in your graveyard. So the first time that you play this, basically it replaces itself. You get to draw another card. Early in the game, that sucks. I prefer to play Telling Time. It's the same mana cost at instant speed, and you get to replace that Telling Time as well, and you can put on top of your card, of your deck, you go 3 deep and you put on top of your library whatever you want from those 3 cards. So I think that's a much better card. Of course, it speaks for itself. When you play the 4th copy of this one, yeah, then you get something in return. You get to draw 4 cards for 2 mana. Yeah, is that great? Yeah, obviously, but that's later in the game, and it won't, even then, the chance that you get all 4 of these in the graveyard, and then it's a one-off because you're gonna play that only once, or you have to play some sorcery instant speed recur from your graveyard. I think it's a lot of hassle for getting what you want. Drawing cards is usually something to get a land or to get whatever you need, and this one doesn't do that, in my opinion. It takes too long before you get that advantage, and that's why I don't like this card. The first 2 copies in my, yeah, the second one is already a bit better, but it is sorcery speed, so you tap out maybe to draw the cards. I don't like it. I just don't like it. If it would be instant speed, it would be already much better, but it isn't. So yeah, I just don't like it. Then Tethered Hunter, for 2 mana, 1 blue, we get a flying 2/1, and he can only block creatures with flying. It is a spirit, so in spirit decks it might be interesting. I don't know, I have to check out spirits. I haven't done that yet, so I haven't built a spirit deck, so haven't been working with it, so but it doesn't seem bad. It seems like a pretty good card for 2 mana cost if you want to go a bit more aggressive with your spirits. Then Substantiate. Return target spell creature to its owner's hand, and we pay 2 for that at instant speed. Yeah, I think that's pretty nice. Yeah, I can see possibilities with this. It's not a counter card because it goes back to your opponent's hand if you place a spell. But it also works the other way around. Say you play a spell, your opponent counters it, you can put that spell back in your hand, for example. Or you can put the counter back into your opponent's hand if he's tapped out. Yeah, it's pretty diverse, so you have a lot of options with this card. It also bounces a creature. It can bounce a creature to your hand or to your opponent's hand. If you want to save a creature, you can use it. Yeah, I like this card actually. The more I think about it, the more I like it. I think this will see a lot of play. Wharf Infiltrator. For 2 mana, 1 blue, we get a 1/1 with Skulk, which is nice. And then what else does he do? Whenever Wharf Infiltrator deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, which is awesome. And if you do, discard a card. Now that's pretty nice. And then whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2. If you do, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. Wow, this is a crazy card. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you're gonna discard a creature card with his second ability, get a 3/2 in return, and if that creature that you've discarded is a madness creature, then you can even pay another cost to get that also on the battlefield. So yeah, and it draws you cards. Yeah, this is a really crazy card, very strong. I think yeah, I can't wait to try this guy out actually. Yeah, this seems awesome. And most of the time he can't be blocked, only by a 1/1. So yeah, I mean only by, yeah, it can only be blocked with a creature with 1 power. So pretty awesome. So he's got a evasion going on. So that's it for the blue cards. Let's move on to the black ones. Whoops. Boon of Emrakul. For 3 mana, 1 black, another aura. Aura seems to be a thing. Enchant a creature and it gets +3, -3. Okay, so if you wanna look at this one from the removal spot for the -3, then it sucks. Yeah, there are way much better removal cards in black, and yeah, obviously when you play this on a creature of your opponent, you want it to get killed because you don't want to give it +3 power. And if you want to play it on a creature of your own to give it +3, then you probably play it on a very big creature. And the question is, does that big creature need another +3? Probably not. So I'm not a fan of this card. Borrowed Malevolence. Oh god, the names of these cards sometimes. Okay, we pay 1 black and we get an instant speed escalate card. That's been a long time. Choose one or both. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Okay, so basically, if we want to play both abilities, we pay 3 and then we get to give 1 +1/+1 and another one -1/-1. Is it good? Well, it is pretty cheap if you pay only the black for one of the abilities. I don't think it's a bad card for the first. If you play 1 for 1 mana, I think it's okay. 3 seems a bit more expensive. Of course, you're gonna play this to do a combat trick or whatever. It's a trick card, so yeah. I think there are better cards, but I don't, yeah, dislike it either. But I doubt if I will play this one actually. I don't think so. Then Cemetery Recruitment. I really like this card in the zombie deck. You pay 2 mana, 1 black. You get the return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and if it's a zombie card, draw a card. So basically, you're getting 2 cards. When you play it in a zombie deck, of course, you get 2 cards for 2 mana, which is great. Okay, it's sorcery speed. We've been there, done that. Okay, but it's not. You get to draw a card, but it's not like in blue. It's not a draw card. You play this to recur something, and it does that great in my opinion. And it has found a spot in my zombie deck. I really like this. It's pretty fun. And as you guys know, I like go digging in my graveyard, get something out. I think that's pretty fun, and yeah, for me this is a great card. And if you play zombies, check this one out. It's pretty good. Certain Death. 6 mana, 1 black. We get to destroy target creature and its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay, I'm gonna say it right away. No, this is not a good card. This is a card for draft or limited or whatever. To get some removal, but in duels you don't want to pay 6 mana to get rid of a creature, because the life gain and the lose 2 life is usually irrelevant, or in decks that you can abuse the gain life with counters, putting all your creatures or something like that. But even then, it is a bad card in my opinion. It's way overcosted. Then Crit Breaker. For one black mana, we get a zombie with a nice ability. It's a 1/1 on its own, and when you pay 2 mana and you tap this one, you get to discard a card, and you get a 2/2 black zombie creature onto the battlefield. Then, if we tap 3 untapped zombies, we get to draw a card and lose a life. Yeah, I don't think I have to talk much about this one. It's obviously that this one is good in a zombie deck. It can give you card advantage, it can give you zombies, it lets you discard a card. Like I said, my zombie deck isn't in the Madness team, but you wanna have some zombies in the graveyard anyway because of the synergy with other cards, and you get the 2/2 black zombie. I think it's a great card, great 1-drop, obviously. Then Dark Salvation, also a pretty nice card. We pay 1 black and some generic mana, so, and then the target player puts X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield. Then up to 1 target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each zombie that player controls. Okay, once again, this is for the zombie deck. You can also play it in non-zombie decks, I guess, but yeah, maybe in green when you can ramp a bit then. Okay, so if you play this for 3, you get a 1/2/2 zombie. So the double X cost, it has to be the same. So X is 1, 2, 3, and they're both that. So I usually play this one for 1, so for 3 mana, or for 5 mana. And yeah, if you have already some zombies on the board, it's you can get rid of a pretty big creature and get some zombies in return. Then the Gavany Unhallowed for 4 mana, you get a 2/4 body, which is not that exciting. The toughness is good, but that's about it. And whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Gavany Unhallowed. So okay, whenever something dies, and that happens a lot in zombie decks, yeah, this one gets bigger and bigger. I think it's a good card. I played it first in my zombie deck, but then it got out because there are other better cards, although for me. So yeah, it lost its spot, but I think when you go very wide with the zombies and play little control, then I think you might be able to fit him in somewhere. Maybe not all 4 copies, but a few should be possible. It's not a bad card. You can play with him in the story mode, and you can try it out like that too. It's a fun card. Then Graph Harvest. Now this is a bit a tricky card. You pay 1 black for an enchantment, and your zombies get menace, which is a great ability and the reason why you would play this card. Second ability is a kind of a weird thing in a zombie deck, because you get to exile a creature card from your graveyard, which is something that you usually don't want to do in a zombie deck, and then put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, it's a good card for the zombies because it gives them menace, which is kind of an evasion that zombies really needed. But yeah, that's a bit all that it does. And when you already have this one on the board, you don't want to draw another one of this one. So in my zombie deck, I only play one copy of it, because I don't want all 3 copies, definitely not. And yeah, like I said, when you draw this later in the game and you need something else and you draw your second copy of this, this is a dead card. So it's not bad if you have one copy of it, in my opinion. Then the Graph Rats. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you both own and control Graph Rats and a creature named Midnight Scavengers, exile them, then melt them into Chittering Host. Okay, so that's another melt card. I'm gonna talk about this side of the card, and then after that, when we see the second card, we'll talk about the melt card. Now, this is a 2/1, which is okay for its mana cost, and we can get a creature back. I mean, we can get Midnight Scavengers back, is probably the card where it melts with, of course. No, what am I saying? What am I saying? I'm not reading it right. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, if you both own and control... Oh no, it doesn't do anything actually. It's just a 2/1 for 2. That's basically it. Is it good? It's not bad, but it isn't too exciting either. Haunted Dead. For 4 mana, when he enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. For 2 mana we get to discard 2 cards, we don't have to tap him for that, and return him, oh no, because he's in the graveyard, we can return him from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, and we get a 2/2. Okay, 4 mana for 2/2 is expensive. It is a zombie, so you can do some stuff with that probably. And you get a 1/1 white spirit, so some kind of zombie spirit deck, I guess, I don't know, it seems a bit odd. I think you don't want to play this in a zombie deck, and I don't think you want to play this in a spirit deck. So yeah, it hovers in between, and it's not good in the one and not great in the either. So in the other one either. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like it actually. Liliana's Elite. For 3 mana we get a 1/1, and it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard, and it is a zombie. Yeah, when you go zombie, it's the same thing as I said before, and you go more to the creature deck building side instead of the control side, where you play a lot of zombie cards. Then this one is much value. You pay 3 for, yeah, a 1/1, but it would probably be much bigger if you built your deck a bit around it. Like I said, my zombie deck goes more to the control-y side, so he's not in. Liliana, the Last Hope. A lot of discussion about this card. Is she good? Is she not good? I like her anyway. It is also important in a zombie deck. It's a zombie planeswalker actually, but she does that great. Her +1 ability, many people doubted a bit about it, but it's actually a bit of the same like the little chase. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-1 until your next turn. So it's a bit the same as chase, only she gets to remove the really little ones. If your creature has a toughness of 1, then you can get rid of it. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Really like that ability in a zombie deck. Even in a non-zombie deck, it's a great ability. And then the ultimate is just great. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. So yeah, when you get that emblem in a zombie deck, yeah, it will be flooded really fast. That's a game-winning emblem. If you're only going to play the first two abilities, I see a place for her in other decks. If you want to play the last ability, then you have to play her in a zombie deck. But let's face it, it's a 3 mana cost planeswalker that comes into play with 3 toughness, with some nice abilities. She defends herself a little, but she does defend herself. I think she's great. I like her anyway. It's a good card in my opinion. Then the Mark of Crusader. For 5 mana 1 black we get a 4/3 lifelinker, and he has haste as long as you control another vampire. Okay, I don't think this is a bad card. You get pay 5 for a 4/3 lifelink. That's not bad, but you want to play this in a vampire deck, and the question is, do vampires need this card? I don't think so. I think it's too expensive for it. It doesn't have madness, which vampires really like the madness. So I don't think it will find a spot in a vampire deck. Then the Midnight Scavengers. It's the other card that melts with the graph rats. So let's take, whoopsie, let's take a look at it. Midnight Scavengers, we pay 5, 1 black, 3/3. That's expensive. When he enters the battlefield, you may return a target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Now that's a good ability. Still the 5 mana cost isn't that great, I guess. But he does get his graph rats to melt him. And when he melts, we get a haste menace creature, and when he enters the battlefield, all other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. Now that's not bad. When you can melt him, it's actually pretty great. The downside is the 2 other cards, the normal sides, aren't that great. Now this one is actually a 2/1 for 2 vanilla. That's okay. This one is more expensive, and I don't know. And then when he flips, when they melt, you have to have a lot of creatures on the board to get value out of it. So yeah, it's some black, green, white token deck maybe. I don't know. I have to try it out, but I don't think it's bad. I think you can do something with it, but you have to try it out, see what it does. This one's mana cost is a bit too much. You can get also back other creatures, of course, like a flashback, which is a great utility creature, for example, for 3 mana. There are lots of other creatures that can be brought back with this one. So if you can abuse this in a Golgari sack deck, maybe, yeah, I can see potential of it, but I don't know if it's good enough for that. Then Murder. Yeah, finally. We pay 3 mana, 2 black for an instant speed destroy target creature card. That's it. No more, no less. But that's great. That's finally the removal that black needed. Instant speed, cheap removal. Awesome card. You're gonna see a lot of it. Oath of Liliana. 3 mana, 1 black, legendary enchantment. Like the artwork, by the way. When Oath of Liliana enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature, so it's actually basically a flashback on an enchantment. And then at the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, I think this can be an addition to planeswalkers decks that play black. No doubt about it. Yeah, I like it. I like the flashback effect, and then it helps to defend your planeswalkers. So yeah, I like the card, and I will definitely try it out in my planeswalkers deck. Then Olivia's Dragoon, 2 mana, 1 black. We get a creature vampire berserker. Discard a card. Olivia's Dragoon gains flying until end of turn. Okay, this is a good vampire card, and that's because the discard a card doesn't cost anything, and this one gets flying, so it gets an evasion. I see that it will probably replace the other vampire. I lost the name, Hair, something with hair. I don't know anymore. Air. Yeah, I don't know it anymore. Anyway, that other card, it was also a 2-mana vampire in black, and when you discard a card, she transforms in a 3/2 flying, I guess. But that's only a one-off. You get to discard a card only once. With this one, you can keep discarding cards, which is great for your madness costs. Yeah, I will be definitely play this one in my vampire deck. Then Stormkirk Condemned for 2 black. We get a 2/2 vampire. Discard a card. Vampires you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate his ability only once each turn. Yeah, this one goes into the vampire deck also. Great ability. Discard a card. It doesn't cost anything, so for the madness it's great. And you get to buff your other vampires. The only downside is that it's 2 black you have to pay, because vampires usually are the Rakdos colors, that's black and red. So it's a bit more difficult to cast, but even later in the game this is a good card because he buffs the other vampires and you get to trigger your madness effects. Then Trebon Fallbloods, 3 mana, 1 black for a 3/2 with Delirium. He gets +1/+1 and menace as long as there are 4 or more creature card types, which is yeah, basically Delirium. So he gets +1/+1 and menace. For 3 mana, yeah, I don't think that's bad in a Delirium deck. He is a zombie in, yeah, I don't know, in zombies it doesn't seem that great. Maybe zombies can get Delirium pretty fast with the self-mill and everything, but yeah, it's, I think in Delirium decks with black it can find a spot. Weirded Vampire for 4 mana, a black, madness, and madness cost is 3, and that's it. It's a vanilla vampire. Yeah, basically you wanna pay 3 mana for a 3/3, but then you have to do it. I don't like it. It doesn't do anything else. It's not that special. It's vanilla, and I don't like vanilla cards. It's too boring actually for me. No, there are better madness cards than that. Whispers of Emrakul. For 2 mana, 1 black, we get a sorcery speed. Discard card. Target opponent discards a card at random, which is pretty nice. And then if we got Delirium going on, he discards 2 cards at random instead. Okay, this is a really good card to disturb your opponent, as well as early in the game, as mid as late in the game. And if you got Delirium going on, yeah, this can really hurt your opponent. I like it in control builds, or yeah, I see this one gets play. Yeah, it's I will try this out, and it's actually one of the few good discard cards in Magic Duels. I like this one. Then we go on to the red cards. Abandon Reason for 3 mana, 1 red, we get an instant speed card, and up to 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. Or we can pay it for a madness cost for 2. Okay, basically you wanna play this not for the damage, because you only do 2 extra damage, but to gain the first strike and to save your creatures actually. So in a deck where you find your creatures important because maybe you don't play that many creatures, could be interesting to save them, but yeah, you have to work around this card to make it work. I don't think it's that interesting actually. I think there are better madness cards than that. Then the Bedlam Reveler. Wow, 8 mana, 2 red. It costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. He's a 3/4 on its own, which is really not impressive for its mana cost, and he's got prowess going on. And when he enters the battlefield, discard your hand and draw 3 cards. Okay, so when you got a handful of land, or you don't have 3 cards, you only have 1, for example, or an empty hand, and this is nice. You get to draw 3 cards. By the time your hand is empty, when you play this card, you should have some instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. At least I hope so. So this is really a card for in the late game. In a mono red deck, I don't see this getting played because it's too expensive. Then you would have some advantage of the last ability to draw 3 cards, but it's too expensive because red, goes through its gas pretty fast, but yeah, you won't be having that much mana to play this one. So yeah, pretty weird card. So this is something that you want to play late in the game, but you don't want to have too much cards in your hand, so it's not for a control deck either. Pretty weird card, pretty weird card. I don't see in what kind of deck you would be playing this actually. Would you play it in a prowess deck? No, it's too expensive for that too, in my opinion. Pretty weird. I have to give it some thought, but at first sight I do not like it. And if it is a good card, it will be in a very, very specific deck. Then Blood Mist. For 4 mana, 1 wit, we get an enchantment, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. Now this is a nice card. I can see this in a Gruul deck with big creatures or something, and yeah, as an addition. I mean, if you got a Gaia's Revenge going on, oh no, it can only be targeted by green spells, I guess. So no, anyway, another big creature. If you attack with with a big Eldrazi or something, it might be all over. So yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting card. Not, I don't think it's for the aggro decks. It's too late in the game, too expensive, and aggro decks usually have little creatures, so giving them double strike doesn't do that much. But maybe in aura decks where you buff your creature up, or in a deck with big creatures, this could be interesting. Yes, absolutely. Bolt Impaler. For 1 red we get a 1/2 vampire, and for 3 we can give him +2/+0 until end of turn. Okay, it is a 1-drop, so that's interesting. Yeah, and the 3 to buff him, yeah, if you don't have anything else to do, but usually you should have something else to do actually. So I don't think it's a bad card, but I don't think it's great either. Then for 1 red Borrowed Hostility, instant speed and escalate card, choose 1 or both. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn, or first strike until end of turn. Now this is interesting. So basically it's a competitor for Titan's Strength, I guess, because you can give your creature +3/+0 until end of turn. So basically for, yeah, you could play this to do 3 damage extra, or to save your creature by giving him first strike. Now I still prefer Titan's Strength because in red it also gives Scry 1, which is pretty important in mono red decks or decks that doesn't have card advantage, and you get the Scry 1. It's pretty good. The escalate, yeah, are you gonna pay 4 for playing this boat? Yeah, you really want to save that creature, then I don't know. I don't think I will be playing this one. I will be preferring Titan's Strength over this one still. Collective Defiance. For 3 mana, 2 red, we get a sorcery speed, but for escalate 1, that's pretty cheap. We can play multiple things. The first thing, target player discards all the cards in his or her hand and draws that many cards. Collective Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature is the second one, and Collective Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponents. Okay, we get a lot of things for the cost. Yeah, I like it. You can get rid of a pretty big creature. We can deal straight damage to our opponent. We can burn him away, and we can disturb. Wait, target player. Yeah, it's target player. So Yeah, we can either way disturb our opponent by making him discard all his cards and make him draw new cards. That could really blow up his game plan. Or we can play this on our own, and then we have something like Chandra's second ability, kind of. And let's say that we have a pretty full hand in a control deck, and we play the first ability with Swing Tutelage in play. Then we're talking. Then we get a lot of triggers of the tutelage. So in that kind of thing, it's pretty awesome. But the second and the third ability is something that you will see played more often, I guess. And it does that great actually for its cost. I like this card. Then Conduit of Storms for 3 mana, a red, we get a 2/3, and whenever he attacks we get to add a red to our mana pool at the beginning of your next main phase. Yeah, that's already pretty decent because we kinda ramp when he attacks, that's pretty nice. And we can also transform him, but that costs 5. Werewolves don't transform anymore just by not playing anything. You have to pay a cost to make them transform. And then we get an Eldrazi werewolf where when he attacks we get to add 2 colorless mana to our next main phase. Yeah, I like this card. It's pretty aggressive. Not aggressive in its way of power and toughness, but if you can flip him, he's a 5/4. That's really good for 3 mana. Yeah, and if you play him on the 3rd turn and you have your land trap the turn after, and if he attacks, then you can flip him pretty fast. Yeah, I see him getting play. I like him. Yeah, he's pretty good, I guess. Then Distemper of the Blood for 2 mana, 1 red, we get to buff a creature by giving him +2/+2 and trample until end of turn, and he's got madness. Yeah, it's not bad. I think it can find a spot in vampire decks. Yeah, but it depends on what kind of gameplay style you prefer. Now I prefer to play more vampires with madness than to buff them actually, but I think it's an okay card, and if that's your thing to buff them up, I guess it's pretty decent. Then the Falcon Rat Reaver, yeah, we get a 2/2 vampire for 2. I'm not gonna play it. It's not bad, but it's just 2/2. It's not exciting. You wanna play Magic to do crazy stuff, and that's not gonna do it. Fury Blade Vampire, now this one is exciting. We pay 2, 1 red for a 1/2, and he has trample. But at the beginning of combat on your turn you may discard a card. If you do, Fury Blade Vampire gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Wow, this is an awesome addition to a vampire deck. Discarding a card is what we want to do, and we get a +3/+0 on this creature. Awesome. This one I will definitely play in my vampire deck. Galvanic Bombardment, also interesting card. We pay 1 red and we deal X damage to target creature when X is 2 plus the number of cards named Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard. Yeah, so this is interesting because yeah, the first time you play him he will deal 3 damage at instant speed to a target creature. So this is the card that will be replacing Fury Impulse, because that card only deals 3 damage when you get Spell Mastery going on. And this one does that from the beginning, and the more you have of them in your graveyard, the more damage he does. So he's only getting better than Fury Impulse. Yeah, this is his replacement and will definitely see play. Then the Anware Garrison, that's another melt card by the way. For 3 mana, 1 red, we get a human soldier. Okay, maybe, why not? And whenever he attacks, he's a 2/3 by the way, we get to put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Wow, that's great. That's a great ability. Yeah, definitely. Because in red we want to keep attacking. You can maybe put this in a Boros human deck something, but it doesn't have to be. You can play this on your own, and when you attack, you basically attack with 4 power for 3. Yeah, that's great. We shall see the melt side after we see the other card. Then Impetuous Devils, for 4 mana 2 red, we get a 6/1 trample haste. And when he attacks up to 1 target creature defending player controls, blocks it this combat if able. And at the beginning of the end step we get to sacrifice this. Yeah, pretty decent aggressive card. When there's nothing on the board on your opponent's side, it basically deals 6 damage, which is great for 4 mana. And if not, you'll probably get rid of a creature. So yeah, I like it. I will definitely try this one out. Then Make Mischief, 3 mana 1 red. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Put a 1/1 red devil creature token onto the battlefield. It has, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Okay, so for 3 mana basically we get a Goblin Arsonist, I guess it's called, and we get to deal 1 damage to a creature or player. Yeah, I guess I prefer the Goblin Arsonist because it only costs 1, but I don't think it's a bad card either. Yeah, I'm in doubt with this one. I don't know actually. It's something that you have to try out. The deal 1 damage might be interesting to get rid of a weenie or to do direct damage, but yeah, I don't know. It seems okay. Yeah, that's it. Then the Mirror Wing Dragon. This is a really nice card, by the way. For 5 mana 2 red we get a 4/5 flying, which is already good. And then whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Mirror Wing Dragon, that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls that spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. So basically, for example, when you get this one out and your opponent plays murder on him, he also murders each of his own creatures. So if he does a spot removal on our dragon, then he'll probably be wiping the board on his side. Now that's awesome. Now on the other side, if he's got a lot of creatures and he plays Titanic Growth on our dragon, then he plays Titanic Growth on all of his creatures, and that won't be that good because you will probably be dead. Now that being said, I still think this is a great card because cards like Titanic Growth, you only see them in very specific decks. You see much more removal than you see those buff cards. And yeah, this card, it doesn't protect itself against removal, but it punishes your opponent pretty hard if he's got a creature based deck. So yeah, I like it, and it will see play, definitely. Savage Alliance, for 3 mana we get an Escalate card at instant speed, and we can choose between creatures target player controls gain trample until end of turn. It deals 2 damage to target creature, or it deals 1 damage to each creature target opponent controls. Okay, so basically we deal, if we play everything, we deal 3 damage to 1 creature, 3 to 1 creature, and 1 to all the other creatures, and one of our creatures will probably gain trample. Now almost all the Escalate cards, like I said before, target a player, so you don't have to target your own creature. So in Two-Headed Giant is also an interesting card. Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's not all the abilities are that great. The last ability is very circumstantial. If they're all weenies, might be interesting. It's instant speed, so you can do some combat tricks with it. If he blocks, and then you probably can get rid of some more creatures than your opponent intended to get rid of. So yeah, it's a nice card. I don't know if it will see a lot of play, but I think it's a decent card. Then Smoldering Werewolf, for 4 mana 2 red, we get another werewolf, and when he enters the battlefield it deals damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. And then we can transform him for 6, which is a lot by the way. And then we get a 6/4, and when he attacks it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Okay, in a werewolf deck I think he's a bit expensive. The come into play ability isn't that exciting. If it would be deals 1 damage and those 2 target creatures can block, it would be much better. Yeah, like this I don't really like it like this. It's too expensive and it doesn't do that much when it comes into play. The other side can be interesting, and then for your 4 mana you do get a pretty decent creature and you get to deal 2 damage. So if you can flip him, then you get something decent. But this side, yeah, a 3/2 for 4 isn't great either. So yeah, and I think with cards like this it's okay, it's easy to see at the other side. The other side will almost always be great or good for what you pay, but you still have to see it as extra or something that will not always happen. This side will always happen. When you choose to play this card, you should choose to play it for its normal side, because that's the side that comes into play, and that's the side where you start off with. So from that point of view, I do not like this card. Then Stensia Banquet, for 3 mana 1 red, we get a sorcery speed spell, and it deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of vampires you control, and you get to draw a card. Okay, I don't think that this is a bad card. If you go a bit wider with your vampires, you can do some damage, you can maybe even finish your opponent off, and you get to draw a card, so that's pretty neat. The only question that remains is it good enough to find a spot in a vampire deck? And that's a difficult question. I don't think so. I think you're gonna fill your vampire decks with vampires and madness cards and some removal, and I don't think that this one will find a spot, but I will have to review my vampire deck to be sure. Then Stensia Innkeeper, for 4 mana 1 red, we get another vampire, a 3/3. It's a bit expensive for what it is, but what does it do? When he enters the battlefield, tap target land and opponent controls, whoa, and that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Wow, I like this one. Doesn't have madness, too bad, but still, it's a pretty decent card. It slows your opponent down. Yeah, pretty nice. Now at 4 mana, yeah, it does do something very annoying to your opponent, so that's not bad. And let's say that you're on the play and not on the draw, and you start and you can play this one on your 4th turn. You basically stop your opponent from playing a Languish, for example, and that's a pretty big thing actually. I don't know if it can replace some vampire in my deck, but I think I will try testing this one. I think it can be valuable, very for sure. The good side also is it doesn't have madness, and it doesn't have it is a vampire, but it doesn't do any synergy to other vampires, so it's also playable in other decks. So yeah, it's an interesting card that I will be trying out. Then the Thermal Alchemist, for 2 mana. I'm going to drink first because I'm getting thirsty from all the talking. That's much better. For 2 mana 1 red, we get a 0/3 human defender, and when we tap him we deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap him. Okay. It's weird that it's a defender, we can't attack him. We can ping with him, and yeah, we can untap him with instant. I don't think it's a bad card. You can stop a bit more aggressive decks. I don't think you want to playing this one in an aggressive deck yourself. Don't think so. But you can do some damage with him if you play some instances or sorceries. Yeah, absolutely. Not bad. I don't think it's great either, but it's not bad. Fielding Pack Outcast. For 5 mana we get a 4/4 werewolf with trample. And when we pay 1 red, we can give him +1/-1 until end of turn. That's not bad. And we can transform him for 7, sweet Jesus. And then we get a 5/7 trample. And then we do basically the same, but we buff him for a colorless mana, a generic mana, and he doesn't get a -1 for the toughness. I think werewolves are getting a bit too expensive for their archetype actually. They do pack a lot of power, especially when you can transform them, but I prefer my werewolves to be a bit faster though. I don't like it, these bigger threats, it goes too slow for my opinion. I don't think this is something that I will be playing. Then the last red card is Weaver of Lightning. For 3 mana 1 red we get a human shaman with reach. It's something that you don't see a lot in red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Weaver of Lightning deals 1 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Okay, yeah, this is more a defensive card, just like the 0/3 that I just spoke of. I see this more as a defensive card too, so maybe this guy would probably fit in the same deck as the other one. Yeah, I think it's okay to stall a bit, to play control-y with lots of instants and sorceries. I think it's okay. If that's your thing, I think it's okay for the mana cost, and it can do a lot of things then. I still have to think what kind of deck I would build with this, but I'm sure there is a deck where he will fit in. Then we move on to green, and for 4 we get a backwoods survivalist, a human warrior with delirium, a 4/3, and when we got delirium he gains +1/+1 and trample. Okay, that's not bad for delirium decks maybe, but I've never built a delirium deck, so it's difficult for me to say what's good in delirium decks and what isn't. But for the 4 mana you already get a 4/3, which isn't that bad on its own. So if you got an empty spot at your 4 mana drop, maybe. Then the Bloodbriar for 3 mana, 1 green, we get a 2/3 plant elemental, and whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 on him. Yeah, maybe in a Golgari sack deck or with an Nantuko Husk. Yeah, why not? Then Crop Sigil, 1 green mana and enchantment, and at the beginning of our upkeep you may put a top card of your library into your graveyard, and it's also got Delirium, and when we got Delirium and we pay 3, sacrifice this enchantment and return up to 1 target creature card and up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand. And yeah, we can only activate it when we get Delirium. So yeah, not a bad card because it fills your library, which is great to get the Delirium, and yeah, we get to sacrifice it, get an enchantment in the graveyard, and we get some stuff back. So I guess it's a pretty decent card in Delirium decks, and even maybe outside Delirium decks for the first ability. You get to scry 1, kinda. So yeah, not bad. Crossroads Consecrator. For 1 green mana we get a 1/2 human, and a target attacking human gets +1/+1 until end of turn if we pay a green one and tap this one. So also another human. We can buff another human, but then we can't attack with this one, so it slows down a bit. It's not bad, but yeah, it's a bit slower, I guess. I don't know. I don't. my human deck has been Celestial from the beginning, and I don't think I will be playing this one in my deck. Then Eldritch Evolution for 3 mana, 2 green. We get a sorcery speed spell, and as an additional cost to cast it, we have to sacrifice a creature and then search our library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle your library and exile this card. Now, this isn't a bad card. You have to build around it a bit, because of course when you sack your creature you want to make sure that you get something to fight. No, not really, because you can also convert. You can search for converted mana cost X or less. Okay, so you can search something else and get it onto the battlefield. So basically you can ramp a one-time creature onto the battlefield by sacking another creature. Yeah, I think it has possibilities, but for me the downside on this card is that it is a sorcery speed card. If this would be an instant speed card, it would be awesome, because then if they would try to spot remove your creature, you can sack it in response with this and get another creature in return. Then this would be a great card. Now I'm not that sure of it actually. I don't know if I like it. I don't think it's bad. Lots of people like it, I know that. But I think, yeah, maybe in also maybe in a Golgari deck or something, something that can recur other creatures and where you can abuse it. But for me, when I sack a creature, I gotta get real good value out of it to get something better. And you probably, yeah, you basically ramp too, so yeah, it's not bad, but it isn't as OP as some people thought it would be, in my opinion. Then Emrakul's Evangel, for 3 mana 1 green, we get a human, and when we sacrifice him, sacrifice Emrakul and any number of other non-Eldrazi creatures. Okay, so if we have a bunch of little creatures, we sack them all. Together with this one, we get all 3/2 colorless Eldrazi creature tokens. I guess it's not bad, but we do gotta have a lot of little creatures. Of course, we can also sack only the creatures that we want. We don't have to sack everything. So, pretty weird card actually. Pretty specific, I guess. Or of course, when they target a creature, a big creature of you, you can sack this one and that creature in response and get 3/2s in response. So yeah, I don't think it's bad. I think it's okay. Then Emrakul's Influence, for 4 mana we get an enchantment. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, draw 2 cards. I do not like this card. It's okay, you can play it relatively early for 4 mana, but it takes a while before you get to draw those cards. So yeah, I do not like it. Then a Foul Emissary of Jesus. For 3 mana 1 green we get a 1/1, which isn't great. And then we get a human, and when he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of our library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And when you sacrifice Foul Emissary while casting a spell with Emerge, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, obviously you're not gonna play this guy for his body. He is a 1/1 for 3. That's not great. So yeah, I'm only gonna play this one for its abilities and in an Emerge deck, and I guess that's a great card for that. And you really wanna be playing that in those decks. Then Gnarlwood Dryad, Death Touch, a 1/1 for 1, Delirium going on. I guess in a Delirium deck this is a must. This is great card for its mana cost. even in a non-delirium deck it's a great card. You get a 1/1 death touch. That's awesome. Grapple with the Past. For 2 mana we get an instant speed. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, yeah, pretty decent card I guess. For 2 mana we get the instant speed. Can play it on the end of the opponent's step turn. Yeah, and we can mill ourselves. So also with the Delirium deck, I guess this is a pretty great card. Yeah, if I would go Delirium deck, it would be definitely with green, and this one would be probably be in it. Then the Hamlet Captain, awesome card. For 2 mana, 1 green, we get a 2/2, which is already good. And when he attacks or blocks other humans you control, get +1/+1. Without a doubt, this one goes into my Selesnya human deck. I think it's an awesome card. And a great addition to decks, human decks. Then Ishkana, Graph Widow. For 5 mana, 1 green, we get a 3/5 Reach legendary creature spider. Also Delirium, and when he enters the battlefield and we got the Delirium going on, we get 3/1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield. And when we pay 7, target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. Paying the 7 includes 1 black. So yeah, then if we pay that, the opponent is going to lose 4 life. Because this is a spider and the 3 token spiders. That's 7, that's costly. Costs a lot for 4 damage, but hey, why not if you don't have got nothing else to do with the mana. I think this is a pretty decent card. Also, of course, in those Delirium decks, for 5 mana you get a okay body with reach. And if you can recur it and abuse it a few times and then pay 7 with lots of spider tokens, yeah, I can see something happening with this. Then the Keswick Prowler. For 1 green mana we get a 2/1, which is actually pretty great, pretty aggressive, and we can transform him into an Eldrazi werewolf, and then he can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, and he is a 4/4, so that's pretty good. Now 5 mana to transform him is a lot, but like I said, I prefer to look at this side of the card, and that's okay. You pay 1 for 2/1, that's okay. And actually my werewolf decks don't have 1-drop, so you might even find a spot in my werewolf deck. Because like I said, I prefer to go a bit faster with my werewolves. Then Prey Upon, if I remember correctly, this is a reprint. 1 green mana and target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So this is a pretty cheap removal spell in green. And if you play lots of big creatures, this is definitely an added value to your deck to get rid of something annoying. Pretty decent card. Then the Primal Druid. Now this card has been talked about a lot because many people see him as a replacer for Sylvan Ranger. We pay 2, 1 green, we get a 0/3, but when he dies we get to search our library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So it's more of a rampant growth when he dies. The question is, does he die? Yeah, eventually he probably will, but if you block with it, but your opponent can really avoid it a long time for it to die. Now in Evil Leap decks or something like that, when you can sack it yourself, this is a great card, but other than that I think you have to be a bit lucky. Against aggro decks it's a good body, but he probably isn't going to die fast because of them. So, and basically what you want is this guy to die. You want him to die because you play this to fix your mana or to ramp or whatever, and you can't always control that with this card, and that makes it a really downside. Now I still think this is a good card, but I don't think that you can put only this card in to fix your mana if you think your deck needs mana fixing, because then you will be screwed over a lot of times, I guess. As an extra then it's great, Uh, in certain decks this one will shine, and yeah, you can try it out. Usually you will die, but yeah, like I said, if you don't have a sack outlet, you don't always control it. Your opponent can stall the game a long time by not giving you the land that you need. Then Shrill Howler. For 3 mana, 1 green, we get a werewolf, which is a 3/1, which is okay, and creatures with power less than him can block it. Wow, that's a pretty neat ability for 3 mana. And then for 6 mana, we can transform him into Howling Chorus, and then creatures with power less than Howling can block him, and he's a 3/5, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, so once again, this side is already good, so it's playable in my opinion. And the other side is pretty decent as well, of course, because you can create some Eldrazi tokens. So yeah, pretty decent card. Yeah, it's a good card. Spirit of the Hunt. For 3 mana, 2 green, we get a Wolf Spirit with Flash, a 3/3, which is great for the cost. And when he enters the battlefield, each other creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf gets +0/+3 until end of turn. Okay, I would have preferred it to be +3/+0 until end of turn, but obviously that would be a bit too much probably. He has Flash, so it is a nice combat trick. You can attack with all your wolves, and you can save them by giving them more toughness. So yeah, I will probably be playing this one. Yeah. You can also potentially avoid a Languish or a Radiant Flames. Yeah, I think it's a decent card, absolutely. Then the Ulvenwelt Observer. For 6 mana we get a 6/6. Okay, it's expensive, but the body for the mana cost is correct. And whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, draw a card. Okay, so when he dies, he automatically replaces itself. So I think for 6 mana, it's pretty okay. Okay, he doesn't have trample or anything, which you probably want in green at this mana cost. But I still think it's a good card. And yeah, it can be a draw engine, you know, when other creatures start dying. Yeah. Now, also in a sack outlet deck, I guess, because if your opponent is going to spot remove a creature, he probably will be removing this one first from all your fatties. So making sure that you don't draw too many cards. So yeah, but I still think it's a good card. Then Waxing Moon. For 2 mana, 1 green, we get an instant speed spell, and we get to transform up to 1 target werewolf you control. Creatures you control gain trample until the end of turn. Wow, this is a great card. This is something that makes transforming your werewolves playable. You can transform them in an easy, instant way and do even something else, or your creatures gain trample. I will definitely try that one out. Then Wolfking Bond. For 5 mana, 1 green, we get an aura, enchant a creature. When it enters the battlefield, we get a 2/2 green wolf, and the enchanted creature gets 2/2. I don't like it. Okay, we get a 2/2 green wolf, but for 5 mana that's a lot. And once again, it's an aura. I do not like auras that way, and yeah, +2/+2 is just not enough for me to play this. Then the last, oh no, almost the last card, Woodcutter's Grit. For 3 mana, 1 green, we get an instant speed spell. Target creature you control gets +3/+3 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Okay, it's one of the better cards to buff a creature, I guess. +3/+3 for 3 isn't bad, and it gains hexproof, so you can even protect your creature. It's a pretty good card. Titanic Growth gets +4/+4, so it's for 2 mana, and that's still better, I guess. Yeah, this one avoids your creature getting murdered or something. So yeah, it does 2 things actually. It buffs your creature and it protects it. Woodland Patrol. For 3 mana, we get a 3/2 with Vigilance. Yeah, a human. I think there are. I think you won't know which human to play first, and I don't think there is a spot for this guy. Doesn't make it a bad card, but he isn't that great. There are a lot of better options. Then Tamio, Field Researcher, a Planeswalker in banned colors, and if we play 4, we get a 4 Toughness Planeswalker with a +1 ability. Choose up to 2 target creatures until your next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deals combat damage, you draw a card. Wow. -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Wow. And -7, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with you may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana cost. Wow. So okay, all the 3 abilities are wow. They are pretty nuts. Does band need this? Probably not, but it is a great addition anyway. So this card is just a good Planeswalker card. All abilities are great. She does protect herself with a -2. Okay, you have to minus her, that's not great. Better way with Planeswalkers is that they can defend themselves with the plus ability, but yeah, I really like her. She's great. Then the Spell Queller, for 3 mana, a white and a blue, we get a 2/3 with Flash and Flying, and when he enters the battlefield, exile target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less, and when he leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Now, I don't know, I don't dislike it, but I don't like it either, and the reason why I don't like it is because it's just temporarily. When your opponent, for example, wants to get rid of all your spirits and plays a board wipe, let's say a Languish, plays a Languish, okay, you play this guy, the spell gets exiled, okay, you saved your guys for a turn and maybe you can finish the game off the next turn. But if your opponent then finds a way to remove this guy, yeah, the Languish comes through, still comes through. So yeah, it is a spirit, so in Spirit Text it will have an addition to that. But if you want something countered, then Scattered to the Winds does a better job, because yeah, then it's countered, definitely. Here I think you must see, okay, he plays a spell, my opponent plays a spell, I don't really have to counter it, but with this I can annoy him a bit and I get a 2/3 body in play anyway, then it's a good card. But if you want to counter something that can change the game, I won't be doing it with this one, because it will come back. The spell will come back to you if you can't finish the game quickly after that. Then Campaign of Vengeance, for 5 mana, a white and a black, you get an enchantment with whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Okay, if you got a lot of creatures, it's a great card. If you don't, it sucks. Then Write Down, a red and a white. Instant speed, destroy target blocking creatures. Creatures that were blocked by that creature, this combat gain trample until end of turn. Okay, so if they chump block your creature, you can come through for lots of damage anyway, so this can be actually a game winning card, because sometimes your opponent thinks, okay, I'm gonna chump block this one and then I will survive another turn, but you can finish it off anyway. So I think it's not a bad card, it's pretty good. Then one other human that will be an addition to human decks, Heron's Grace Champion, for 4 mana, a green and a white, we get a Flash Lifelinker 3/3, which is already great for its cost, and when he enters the battlefield, other humans you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink. Okay, I think when I read these abilities and when you see the cost, I think that's enough to know that this is a great card. Then Chisa and Geralf, for 4 mana, a blue and a black, we get a legendary creature, human wizard, and when they enter the battlefield, we get to put the top 4 cards of our library into your graveyard, and during each of your turns you may cast a zombie creature card from your graveyard, and he's a 4/4, which is already a good body toughness power for its cost. Obviously in a zombie deck this is what you want to play, and it is a great card, I can tell you that. Awesome card. Then Mercurial Geists for 4 mana, a blue and a red. You get a spirit with flying, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, he gets +3/+0. Does it find a spot in a prowess deck? Because it's kind of a prowess thing. Only gets +3/+0. Now for the 4 mana, a 1/3 is underwhelming. And I do not like that. I have to do other things to make him playable, and that's not good. I do not like that. So I won't be playing this one, to be fair. The Bloodhole Priest, a vampire for 4, and he's a 4/4, and whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, if you have no cards in hand, he deals 2 damage to target creature or players, and he has a madness cost of 3. Now if you pay 3 and you get a 4/4, it's okay. Now the first ability, I would be counting on it too much that it triggers, because it's very circumstantial when you have no cards in your hand, even with many madness cards. So I don't think I would be playing this one either. Then the Morn Willow for 3 mana, black and a green. We get a creature plant skeleton for 3/2 haste, and he's got Delirium, and when he's got Delirium, creatures with power 2 or less can't block this turn. Now that's pretty good actually, if you want to go a bit more aggressive. If you got the Delirium going on and the creatures can't block, yeah, well, I see a spot for him in Delirium Golgari decks. Then Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, it's something that people wanted, a legendary human werewolf or something. We pay 5, which is steep, which is costly. We get a 4/4, which is maybe just playable, but whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, target creature gets +4/+4. So yeah, that's actually, he does a Titanic growth on one of your creatures. He doesn't have flash, so it is at sorcery speed, which isn't that great, but werewolves do get trample cards, so maybe it's okay. When he transforms the old way you transform werewolves, because he isn't an Eldrazi werewolf. And when there are no spells cast last turn, he transforms into the uncontested alpha, and then we get a 6/6, and whenever he transforms into that one, he fights a non-werewolf creature you don't control. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform him back into the other side. So is this a good card? Yeah, I think it's still a good card. 5 mana, I agree, it's a bit more costly, but at the end of your mana curve in a werewolf deck, I think this is playable. Then we go to the emerge cards and the colorless cards and the Eldrazi cards, and the first one is Abundant Maw. We pay 8 colorless mana for a 6/4 generic mana, sorry. We get an Eldrazi Leech with emerge ability 7. Emerge is you can sacrifice a creature with its emerge cost, and then the creature that you sacrificed, its converted mana cost is reduced from the emerge cost. So you get the emerge cost is getting cheaper by the bigger the creature you sack. And when you cast this one, the target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life, and you get a 6/4, which is pretty good. Paying 8 is a bit too much, but these cards, yeah, you're never gonna pay 8 because the emerge cost is always cheaper. For 7, 6/4 is okay. He's got a nice ability, lose 3 life, gain 3 life. Yeah, you may cast him for 4 or maybe even less, so I think it's emerge cards are pretty strong, I guess. Cultist Staff for 2, we get an artifact equipment, equip 3 +2/+2. Yeah, in an equipment deck, okay. Yeah, not much to say about it, so it's okay, it's okay. Then the Decimator of Provinces, great card. 10 mana, generic mana for a 7/7 seems a lot, but we're gonna cast him for 9 with the emerge cost, and preferably even cheaper by sacking something. And when we got a lot of creatures on the board, every creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample. And this one has trample and haste as well. So this is a great card that you will definitely be seeing online. Then Distended Mindbender for 8 generic mana. We get a 5/5, and the emerge cost is 7/2 black. And when he enters the when you cast him, sorry, then target opponent reveals his hand, and you choose a non-land card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and a card with mana cost 4 or greater, and that player discards those cards. So yeah, really nice card to let your opponent discard some cards. Pretty nice card. Maybe a bit too expensive, and when you play him it might be not that relevant anymore, because your opponent might have not much cards anymore, but I think it's still a great card. Drawyar Behemoth, 9, flash, 5/7, emerge 7 and a blue, and he has hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield its turn. I don't think it's a bad card. I'm gonna take a sip again of my water here. Still don't think it's a bad card, but I think there are better emerge cards, but in blue this is okay. Elder Deep Fight, this is a better card, I guess, for 8 or for the emerge cost of 7 and 2 blue. We get a flash creature which is a 5/6, which is already good, and when he enters the battlefield, tap up to 4 target permanents. So basically you should be able to cast this at the beginning of your opponent's turn, I guess, but I don't know with the upkeep, because Magic Duels actually lacks a real upkeep phase, so I don't know if it's doable. But normally you should play this in the upkeep of your opponent, tap 4 lands of him, and he basically loses a turn. So it's a great card. I like it a lot. Then It of the Horrid Swarm, 8 mana, emerge, 7 mana and a green, and when you cast it, put 2 1/1 green insect creature tokens onto the battlefield. I think this one still is too expensive, and there are better emerge cards. Maybe you can, yeah, you don't want to play too much emerge cards in the deck either, because you don't want to sack everything all the time, or you have to build around that, but you should only play the better emerge cards, in my opinion. Then in Simic Colors, 8 generic mana or 7 with a green and a blue for the emerge cost, and whenever you cast him, you may put target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. Okay, this is to slow down your opponent. He basically doesn't draw a new card next turn. Yeah, pretty nice. 5/4 is a little low on the power toughness, but with the emerge you should be able to cast him much sooner than your 7th turn. Then the Lupine Prototype for 2 generic mana. We get an artifact creature wolf construct by all things, and he can't attack or block unless a player has no cards in hand. Okay, before a player gets hellbent, which means that they don't have any cards in their hand, that's very situational, and we lack discard cards to make sure that our opponent doesn't have any more cards in his hand. Maybe in a Madness deck, something where you run out of cards, but I don't think that's the best tactic either, so I don't really like that card. Then Mockery of Nature for 9 generic mana. We get a 6/5, or for the emerge cost of 7 and a green. When you cast him, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So basically this is a Relic Sage, but with, yeah, he's more expensive and has a better body, so yeah. Relic Sage still has the better, he has the advantage that he triggers his effect when he enters the battlefield, so with recurring him from the graveyard straight to the battlefield, he triggers as well. This one doesn't, he has to go to your hand first. Yeah, I don't know, it's a good body if you can cast him for a cheap emerge cost, I guess, and the ability isn't that bad. Then the Vexing Scuttler, 8 generic mana, Eldrazi crap, 7 for the Emerge cost. For 5, and when you cast them, you may return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Now that's a nice ability to have. You can get something back, card draw, yeah, whatever. Instant or sorcery, there's always something good if you play some of those. Yeah, pretty nice. I think you can work with it. Toughness and power isn't that great either, but like it has emerged, so once again you can probably play it sooner. Then Wretched Griff, 7 generic or 6 emerge with the blue, and when you cast him, draw a card. Nice one too. 3, 4, also pretty low on the power toughness area, but yeah, they probably want to be careful with those emerge costs too, because they don't want to give you too overpowered cards. Then the Gaia Reach Sanitarium. I've been thinking about this card. It's a legendary land. It's pretty weird. It adds colorless to your mana pool, and when you pay 2 and tap, each player draws a card and discards a card. Okay, it can gives your opponent a card as well, but yeah, maybe Mildex or something, or yeah, I don't think it's a bad card, and you can filter your own hand as well, so yeah, I think it's a good card, but most people don't see it that way, I guess, but I think it's a pretty decent card. Then the Anwire Battlement, it's the other melt card from the one that the red card there that attacks. It's been a while that we've seen that. Let's see. For where is he? It was red, no? Yeah, I think I lost that card. I don't remember which. Ah, there it is, the Enwire Garrison. You see, it was red. So it's the other side of this card. This card was already great. I talked about it. And let's see, this one is a land, Enwire Battlements. Add colorless to your mana pool. Play 1 red, tap it, and target creature gains haste, which is an awesome ability. And if you pay 5 and you tap it, so you don't have to meld it, it doesn't happen automatically, you have to pay the mana for it, then you can melt a creature with this land and they become this, and that's a crazy creature here. A trample haste 7/4, and whenever he attacks, put 2/3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped. Wow, awesome. Also a great card. And a land, let's face it, it's not difficult to include in your deck. Yeah, awesome card. Pretty nuts. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I'm sorry about the length of it. Maybe I should have cut it in parts when I talk about the green, the red, all the colors in different videos, but like I said, it's also something to try out. I don't know if I'm gonna do this with all sets. It's gonna depend of your feedback actually. So I've been talking for more than 2 hours. I guess you can hear that by now. I'm getting tired a bit. It's pretty intense. I hope you guys liked it anyway, and I hope I helped you guys a bit with which cards are great and which cards aren't. Remember, it's my point of view. It doesn't mean that when I say a card isn't that good that it is bad per se. Maybe you can find a spot for it, or maybe you like it, or maybe it's just how you like to play the game with that kind of cards. Anyway, have fun brewing.